Welcome to the Vet Med Wellness and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss central challenges vet med leaders face, such as burnout, stress, and difficult interactions with clients and staff, just to name a few. In each episode, you will hear about actionable solutions that you can apply to your practice and invitations to connect with fellow leaders who are passionate about improving the wellness of the vet med profession. By subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, you are helping more veterinary professionals find the resources shared in these episodes. Thank you in advance for listening and supporting this show. I hope you enjoy it. All right. Hey, everybody. Crystal Stokes here. And today we'll be diving into financial planning and veterinary medicine. So joining me first is Ranae Bart, MBA, who is a seasoned advisor with Northwestern Mutual Wealth Management Company and is dedicated to helping veterinary professionals secure their financial futures. She has a unique perspective as the spouse of a veterinarian, and she brings a personal understanding of the challenges within the field of veterinary medicine. Joining her is her expert assistant, Dr. Christa McKinley, who is a veterinary doctor, by the way, DVM, and she offers valuable insights from her veterinary background to help guide today's conversation. So thank you, too, for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Sure thing. Christa, I think we should dive into your background a little bit more first, because it's interesting to hear that you've made this transition from being a veterinarian in practice to now working in the finance industry. So can you tell us more about how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually one of the most common questions I get, Crystal, is how did I go from being a veterinarian to working in the financial planning industry? And really what happened was I've been in the veterinary industry for about 22 years now. I started off at the basic level of being a veterinary technician and worked all the way up to being a veterinarian, where I ended up running my own practice. It was a mobile practice for about 5 years. Towards the end of that, I was living in Florida during that time, and I had the joy of getting to move to Colorado to be closer to family. When I made that transition, I essentially started to look at kind of what options I had. Should I restart a new practice here? We were pretty saturated in the area, and then I kind of started thinking physically, where would I want myself to be in 20 years? And although I love vet med, it was definitely taking a bit of a toll. So I started to transition over to something that still provided a lot of the same space of having to, have that mental activity like vet med does, constantly having a growth space for myself. And I found myself in the financial industry because it married a lot of what I was doing already as a veterinarian, where I was creating a treatment plan for our families, working with the community, helping make sure we activated that plan together, and being an integral part of that process. Yeah. Financial planning is very similar to that. And so as I grew on the financial industry side, got all my licensing done, which was very much similar to taking the NAVLE, to be honest with you. And then I started looking into what it meant to be kind of growing over here and who I wanted to work with. And I actually found the perfect fit with working with Ranae. She, as much as I love veterinary medicine, she has a passion for that. And we kind of just came together. And at that point, I realized I don't really want to be the boss, and she loves being that person. And I just wanted to be that integral part of the team that helped everything grow. And so we've been really doing a really wonderful job, I think, sponsoring and helping support the veterinary community. And so it's just been a pleasure being able to work for her so far.
That's awesome. Ranae, I'd love to hear your background, given that you are married to a veterinarian. Yeah, tell us how you got here to the point of really wanting to support veterinary professionals with their financial well-being.
Yeah, I'm going to preface this with I've been married for 13 years to a veterinarian, and my marriage survived vet school. So I feel like not a lot of people can say that. So I'm super familiar with the struggle. It's real, Also, my wife started in equine surgery, and so I'm super familiar with the lifestyle and what equine surgery brings, and now has transitioned to small animal, and then from doing small animal GP to relief work. So my marriage has allowed me to be super knowledgeable in all components of vet med, whether it's large animal, small animal, all of the things. But yeah, I mean, I love it because I know the struggles because I haven't gone through vet school myself. I would not wish, nope, that's not something that's on my radar. But being, right by her side throughout the whole thing, I understand, and that's, I think, what brings a unique approach to our team is that we get it. There's nothing that anybody in vet med is going to tell us that we either haven't been through or haven't witnessed, so being able to come from that perspective of, hey, you're going through the same thing we went through. We just know the struggles and know the pain points and are able to address those, even if people don't know that they're pain points, because sometimes they're just like knuckling it, like, all right, I'll deal with this later. And then we have a conversation and it's like, didn't think about that, So I think it's a unique perspective. And to Christa's point about me being the boss, my family owned a business. I've always run a business. So yeah, I do like being the boss. So that's fair, but also understand that there has to be a work-life balance, and same thing with vet med. A lot of times I'm meeting with people and they're working way too much for too little pay. And, it's like, hey, how do I retire yesterday? That's like a common theme that we hear. It's how do I get out of this? Like, I don't want to work forever. My body's tired, so yeah, I think just being in it and having my family be in vet med just brings a different and a unique perspective.
It definitely does. I think that was so appealing when we first met is to, we could all find a financial advisor online or financial services, just type on Google. But I think that a lot of trust needs to be built because it's such an intimate topic. It affects so many different aspects of our life and the quality of our life. And it's also scary. Like, money brings up a lot of anxiety for people. So if you can shortcut some of that trust building by working with people that already have a lot of insight, you don't have to explain, it's so tiresome to try to explain some of these things. So know that you can just come together and you already have that foundation built. I thought that was really appealing and very interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you, Crystal. What drew me over to working with Ranae was that she was on the same mission as I mentioned, right? Like when I left vet med, I didn't want to leave vet med. I just wanted to make sure that I could still be part of it in some way, give back to the community that has supported me for 22 years. And I knew that if I wasn't going to be able to work directly with animals anymore, at least at minimum, I could continue to work helping provide a better quality of life for the veterinarians that I love and the veterinary community that I love. Ranae, like I mentioned already, she has that same passion. And when she goes into the topic of work-life balance, she means it, which has been what's been one of my favorite things. Although I call her my boss, I feel like we're more of a family at this level now. And she's really provided that space for me to grow in this industry, but also to still maintain that connection to the community that I love so dearly.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? I'm glad that you were able to stay in vet med in this new way. I think it's very special. I think that nothing really paints the picture better than stories. And you all have some very powerful stories that I think showcase how you make this mission real, right? How you live it. So why don't we start with the first story about the veterinarian that was diagnosed with cancer while in vet school?
Yeah, this one was a super, super special client. Obviously no names, keeping everything confidential here. But when I first met with her, she was telling me the story of how she was diagnosed with breast cancer while she was in vet school, which I don't know how emotionally or time-wise or physically, I have no idea how she overcame that, but she's a super strong, driven woman and she's good now. So she's in a good space medically. But yeah, terrifying. And at that point she was like, I don't ever get approved for anything. I don't have any disability because of my cancer diagnosis. I don't have any life insurance. She's like, I'm a relief vet. I don't have any retirement. And she was really just starting from scratch. And she was like, I'm not really sure where to start. And I think my medical background really eliminates me from being able to do any of these things. And that's where having a team that doesn't have to work with one specific company comes into play, right? So I think what she had done previously was tried to get coverage with one company and they said no. And that advisor probably only had access to a limited amount of companies. And so at that point, whoever she was working with had said, sorry, I can't really help you, right? But that's where when you work with us, we can search every company that's out there. So while she may not have gotten coverage with the first company that we tried, we did ultimately find her coverage. And she's now in a place where she's got life insurance, she's got disability insurance, which was our biggest concern for her. Because being in vet med, we all know one of our good friends got bit by a cat over the weekend and was in the emergency room with her hands super swollen. Like at any point in time, anything can happen, you know? And so that was scary for us because she's not married. She's got one income, right? And if something happened to her and she can't work, life changes, right? So that was one of our big focuses, was to make sure that we found her something, and we did. And then also she was super concerned because she's a relief vet. So there's no retirement planning happening there. She doesn't have a 401k or a 403b to get started on. Nobody's really giving her that. And so we were able to get her started with a retirement plan, show her, hey, here's where we project, this is how much we need to put in, and just get her set up properly and still allow her that freedom of being able to do relief work. But now she's got some peace of mind. So if something does happen, she's okay. She's taken care of.
Wow. I mean, imagine the relief to know you have a safety net, because there's so much anxiety that goes into thinking it's all on my shoulders. If I get injured, I won't be able to pay my rent or buy food, and this is such a physically demanding job. Your body, it really takes a toll year after year. And of course, injuries or illness can just happen to anybody, even if your job wasn't that demanding. And I think that the relief sector in any industry or profession, often they don't have the benefits of like 401k, retirement planning. And sometimes I think we don't really think about it because we're not there yet. But if we're wanting to take care of our future self and have them have the opportunity to relax a little bit and have quality of life, then you've got to start planning now. So what a tremendous story there of how you were able to help her have security and safety.
Yeah. And I'd like to even chime in on her and the idea that, much like most of us in the veterinary industry, she has a few pets, right? And even down to the basics of whenever she was having anything happen with her fur kids, if anything was going on, we were there supporting her, making sure we gave her the space to have that time for herself, especially with being so busy working just by itself. I think that's what makes us a little bit more unique. Once again, like Ranae said, is that we understand, right? We understand not just what your job is, but also what your lifestyle choices are and how you're living on a day-to-day and some of those mental spaces that you may need. And I remember that she's even come to us a little bit, on her student loan stuff. Not that we can give a whole bunch of advice, but just having somebody to kind of run ideas off of. And also when she was going through getting a new job, just having that part of our community to reach into and saying, hey, I've got these offers coming to me. What do you think as a veterinarian to veterinarian and a financial advisor to my veterinary lifestyle? What can I be doing best? So when Ranae says we actually helped with her 401k, we really did. We went through and talked to her about what they were offering and making sure that they were providing the utmost best they could for her when she was doing those jobs searching.
Great. Like you're her guardian.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we feel like moms.
Yeah. Powerful. Like what a powerful story too, of like getting through a breast cancer diagnosis while in vet school. Like, she has some grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
did.
Yep.
Tough cookie.
Still does. She's an amazing woman.
Still does. Yeah.
She's gritty forever. All right, let's move on to the next story about the veterinarian who had many jobs.
Yeah. So this client, which this is not abnormal, when you become an intern and you hop around, and at this point some interns are doing 4 years of internships, and maybe it takes longer, maybe you try a little GP, then you go back, maybe you do a residency, whatever that looks like. But it is really common for vets to have multiple retirement accounts, because they can be, and this client is actually in academia, and she went from university to university to university to university, and came to us and was like, you can try helping me, but everybody else that I've spoken to has just given up. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. I promise you that. We are here for it. But she had over 10 retirement accounts from hopping jobs and all over the country, different states, which is fine. It's just a matter of making sure that we're doing our job and keeping her on track. But we did get all of those retirement accounts consolidated. And really, she was like, I have no idea where I'm at for retirement because my retirements are all over the place, right? And so being able to put all of those together and see everything in one bucket, now she's like, oh, I'm not doing so bad, but going into our conversation, she was like, I really don't know. I don't know if I'm on track. I don't know if I'm behind. Couldn't tell you. She's like, I have money places that I probably don't know. So that's where we started. We started with a list of where she worked and made sure that we gathered all of her retirement accounts. Now she's got everything working together with her current account, with us, and then her 403B at the university she's currently at. But really just giving her the space to be like, okay, I know that this is something that's going to take some time, and I appreciated her honesty of, hey, I've tried having a few people help me and none of them have ever really followed through, which is a shame, but not all advisors are created equal. They don't all do the same things, right? So that's why we're here, to make sure that doesn't happen, and now she's in a much better place and says it all the time. She's like, I'm thankful you didn't give up. I'm like, I would never give up. Our team would never give up. So
What do you think is the difference there? Like, how is it that some groups, we may come to them and they say, this is a little too messy. I don't think we can.
I think it comes down to care.
Is it?
I'll be honest. It's just care. If you care enough for somebody, you're willing to put the work in and take the time that it takes and be patient. Some universities take a really long time to roll money over and there's extra paperwork and things like that. And I think that's where some advisors are like, that's a little sticky. I don't want to do that. But no, if you have a good person, then we'll run through a wall for you. It's really, it doesn't matter what it is. We'll help you.
You don't mind getting dirty. Like, if you have to spend some time, roll up your sleeves, and it takes a long time, you're in it to win it. You stick with it, full of expressions.
Yeah, we just want to help good people, and she's a good person. She deserved that help. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Interesting. So on hers, the outcome was that now she has everything consolidated in one place, which gave her that feeling of relief, because she could say, actually, from a retirement standpoint, I actually do have this pool of money. I can see it now. I understand better how far that could go for me, or how much more I need to contribute to reach those goals for the future. So it just gave her clarity.
Yeah. And also more options, right? Like, all of those retirement accounts that were with previous universities have very limited fund options that she's allowed to invest in. Yeah. So once we consolidated and rolled those all into an IRA, now we have the entire market to choose from. So it also opens her up to more diversification, right? So her portfolio is doing well because we've brought everything together and she can see, where everything's at.
Wow. So expanded her performance options. Yeah. Great. Okay. And now we have one more story about a practice owner. He had an excessively high cash, a lot of cash just sitting.
Yes, he did. So
under his mattress, or
pretty much. It was pretty much locked up in a safe. So yeah, he had all of it in his house. And I know you guys all get this, but it's like decision fatigue, right? And it's also paralysis, where it's like, I don't want to make the wrong decision, right? So when we met with him, he was like, I have all of this money. I do a good job. I'm expanding. He's opened multiple clinics now. Like, he's doing really well. And he's like, I don't know what I should be doing with this. And so being able, and he was very skeptical from the get-go. He was like, I don't want to pay somebody for something that I can do, which I get. But also having that large chunk of money sitting on the side, not doing anything, he wasn't doing what he should be doing. So basically just giving him a roadmap and saying, hey, here's what we recommend. Here's how we need to grow that money. Right now, it's just sitting in the safe. We're losing to inflation. We don't have this money earmarked for anything. It's just sitting there. So giving it purpose and saying, hey, let's start to take care of not only your family, but also things in your business that we just haven't done yet. And he has the cash flow. He just didn't know where to start, right? So for us, it was also showing him, hey, you're actually going to do better off tax-wise if you hire your wife and put your wife on staff, right? Same money going into the same household, but it lowers his income. So it actually helped a little bit there of finagling. And now we're able, because she's on payroll, for her to have a retirement account, right? So there's lots of ways that we can plan. It really is just, it comes down to having a conversation and saying, hey, I need help, right? And he said, he's like, I could study and I could do all this myself, but with what time, right? Also, is he going to get up and watch the market and see what the trends are and all that? He's not. He's got multiple clinics to run, right? And then same thing, we also went through his employee benefits. And as we went through, because that's also something that we do, we went through all his employee benefits and realized that the employee benefits that he has are not great. And I think he did it with a payroll company. And then we ran some numbers and said, hey, if you eliminate this one that you have just for yourself and move that coverage over through your job, you can actually cover all of your employees for the same cost as you just covering yourself currently.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. So it's really just being able to look at the whole picture for somebody or for a clinic or for practice and saying, hey, is what we have what's best for us and our staff? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just, the practice manager's busy and they haven't touched anything or looked at anything in 10 years. And at this point, it's not what's best. So we can come in and just evaluate and look high level, like, hey, here's where we would make some adjustments. And often we're able to save people some money just because we're reviewing it and saying, hey, does this make sense? Does this not make sense anymore? But yeah, I think that was an interesting case where he was like, I just have a lot of money sitting in a safe. And it's been there for years. And I'm like, okay, the market was up over 20% last year, right?
Oh, so much money lost. What a
So
bummer.
much money lost. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I think what we try to do every day is make sure that, especially for veterinarians in the community who already are working so hard, and as Ranae mentioned, we're, as a unit, we're experiencing so much decision fatigue, basically. We can't quite get to that next step because we're always having to figure out our caseload and treatment options for our patients. And all of our passion and love is going to that space that we tend to forget about ourselves a bit. And I can also speak freely about that with myself. Like when I came over to the financial industry, while I had some knowledge, I definitely have grown tremendously since I've gotten into this space. Especially working with Ranae on the investment operations side of things, I now pay attention to the stock market more than I ever imagined I would. I find myself watching and listening to podcasts on the market, also on economics, and not just about animal welfare, but manufacturing welfare, service welfare. And as a veterinarian, I can tell you there was no way I was going to do that because my brain by the end of the day was like, no, thank you. I just want to sit down on the couch and stare off into the abyss. And so what I think we do for our families, while we come in and we understand the community that they're in, but we also give them that space to just kind of take a breath, know that this isn't all on their shoulders, that behind them stands a team that will always be there to work for them and do those steps that they just don't have that time to do, and make sure that each dollar that they earn, because it's so valuable, is actually getting the most out of itself, that it can grow in a space that they can feel comfortable with, but also have somebody in the background saying, hey, do you have questions? Because if you've got those questions, we're here to help guide you through that step for you.
I think that it's very intuitive because you think about, like for me as a client that maybe comes to a veterinarian. If I say to a veterinarian, I just want to learn everything about veterinary medicine. I want to research the best drugs, the best protocols, all the nutrition, and I'll make my own decisions about my pets. He'd be like, yeah, good luck. Okay, let me know how that's going. But today I'm to the veterinarian and say, I know you've spent years of your life, so much energy. You're staying top of the industry too, in terms of things that are changing.
Yeah.
Medications are coming out. We update our medical practices all the time. it's like you defer to them. You say, hey, you're the specialist here. I trust you to help me make the best decision for my pet. And now here you are, kind of in that similar position of we've invested a lot of time and energy into mastering finance, and we are here to help you along the way. Also, you all have access to things that we as like the lay population just don't even know about, right? Yeah. Yet it's like a whole giant library of things that are at our fingertips, like how you help that person figure out the benefits packages for their team. We just take the most obvious route, which is, just do it through your payroll company, right? It just makes sense, like keep it all consolidated, but it may not be optimal at all. So I appreciate how you guys really focus on optimizing. Like you might have something set up, but is it really going to get you to where you want to be, both for yourself, your family, and your team, your company? And so you can look at all those different aspects. And I think that knowing you have someone like that has your back is a huge relief. And you can say, these are my trusted advisors. I go to them when I need. I have everything set up. It's great.
We just actually had a client the other day who told me that she felt like she finally had a team behind her and that she was breathing easier because we were with her. And, I think that by itself, I would, after work, I told my family, I was like, you know what, this is where I'm supposed to be, because I wanted to make a difference, but honestly, being able to make a difference for other people in the community, like I said, that I grew up in, I just feel like it almost made me cry a little bit, to be honest with you. And I think, for us, it's not just that we're focused on the veterinary community either. We help everyone, right? Obviously, we have, being Ranae has gone through school with her wife, and I think that's just a big part of life, just having that space and knowing how to be patient with us on that end of things. But also, I feel like we as a community right now, we need someone like us to be behind us. And so even just the general population, we have a family that we worked with the other day who kind of, had some other stuff going on. And when I called and reached out to her, she said, you know what, you were on the top of my list to call, but thank you so much for following up with me instead, because it took a space off of my to-do list. And I just feel like you guys are truly behind me. So while we are here for the veterinary community, I also want to make sure it's understood that we are helping everyone that we can, because that's just the type of team we are.
Beautiful. Yeah. All the humans.
Yes.
You're all welcome. Yes. So I know we touched on these 3 stories, which really highlight the bulk of what you all do. Would you like just quickly, for those listening who may be curious, like, well, you didn't mention something, but I might have this need, and just give a quick overview of most common ways that you help that may not have been mentioned in the examples you gave? Services you provide.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do a lot of individual and family planning as well. Not limited to, but we do a bunch of insurance, right? So there's the life insurance component. Obviously, we touched on the disability. Long-term care is something that's super relevant as people are getting older. Investment accounts, which we kind of touched on. So brokerage accounts, advisory accounts, the 529s for education for little kids, Roth IRAs, backdoor Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, rollovers. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of investment stuff, which is the fun side of planning, right? And then obviously we do the group benefits, right? Where we're focusing on group planning for businesses and their practices and things like that.
Great.
And when we do those tasks, especially, say on the investment side or the insurance side, even like we've mentioned already, we're there for you every step of the way. So we'll even make the phone calls with you, right? We have a lot of our vets who are like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to call this company and talk to them about my 401k. I don't even know what words to use. And so we'll do a little bit of a pre-call with them and say, hey, this is the kind of steps we're going to go through with you today. And then we'll make that phone call and we'll do most of the talking. You just have to introduce us and we'll guide you through that. And afterwards, most often what I think, and I think Ranae can agree with this, is we get, oh, that was easier than I thought. The biggest limiting factor was their fear of making the phone call.
Not knowing. Yeah.
Yep. So, I think that's one of the bigger ways that we're actually just getting them motivated to take that next step. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Also, I didn't mention the SEP IRAs and simple IRAs for those who are not, or those who are doing whatever, have an LLC or doing 1099 work and are like, hey, I don't have a retirement. How do I get a retirement? We can help set that up and walk through how to do all that and all that good stuff. But yeah, and basically anything planning is what we do. It's in our wheelhouse.
We will make a plan. Great. For those listening today, if they want to just have like your top, 2 or 3 takeaways, what would you suggest they remember from today's podcast?
Christa, you want to go? You want me to go?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I think that the most important thing, as I've highlighted so much here, is that we are unique for the veterinary community. We're not just here because we decided we both wanted to join the financial planning industry and start planning for the community in a general way. We said, you know what? We have this passion towards veterinary medicine and we know the struggles that exist there. We want to make sure we're part of your team every day, that you wake up, you have a phone call away from us, whatever you need. And I mean, even down to like, when Ranae mentioned doing like long-term care stuff, I help with that right now because I have all the medical knowledge, right? So when you call and you need to do that application, you're not over here having to work with somebody that doesn't even understand the basic terminology of what your job is and what we're doing for you on the other side of it. I had a client tell us that the other day. She said, wow, you know more of the terminology than my human doctor does. And I said, well, I mean, here we are. But I was definitely thankful that as a team, Ranae and I can provide that. And our other teammate, she brings in such a great strength as well, So I feel like we're so well-rounded in that way.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Ranae? Do you want to share any takeaways?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway should be that we're here to help. And at any stage, sometimes people will say, well, I'll meet with you when I have a bunch of money. Well, not necessarily, because there's missed opportunity in that time lost, And so I tell people, we'll meet you where you're at. And if it's, hey, I need help with budgeting and figuring out how to get myself out of this hole. A lot of vet students are living on credit cards and student loans. And when they first graduate, it's how do I navigate this, right? Having a conversation with us about, okay, I've got these 2 job offers. This one's offering me a sign-on bonus, but I have to stay on for 5 years. Or this one's offering me a higher salary, and making sure we're talking through all those benefits and those points. I think that's just as relevant, right? So I tell people, everybody needs planning, no matter where you are, no matter what stage of life you are. Everybody needs to have a conversation. And I tell people, I'm happy to meet with you, and our team will run a complimentary analysis for you and make those recommendations for free. And you take it from there, wherever you want to go with it. But everybody deserves a plan.
Wow. You can't beat that. Like there's no risk in just checking it out and saying, yeah, take a look under the hood. Tell me what you think, given where I'm at, where I want to go. That's the first step in building that kind of trust, that these people do the plan they put together really fits for me. And if you want to take the next steps, you can. If you don't, that's fine too. So with that said, how can people find you?
Yeah. I think one of the ways that they can find us is through LinkedIn. And we have also right now, we're working to get into some more conferences. We're loving that you invited us to this podcast because we're hoping that this offers an opportunity for people to find us in this way. And then I'll let Ranae talk a little bit about how we've already joined some conferences and some other organizations to help with our.
Yeah. Currently we're doing quarterly webcasts for the RVMA, so the Relief Veterinary Medical Association. So you can find our information on there if anybody watching is part of that group. We are the financial team that works with everybody in the RVMA. So that's just a service that we're providing to everybody there. But yeah, you can shoot us an email. I know you're going to post all the contact points, or give us a phone call. And then, yeah, we're happy to meet with anybody who wants it. Yeah.
Great. I just appreciate you all so much. Thank you for bringing so much heart to this. I love the family feel. That's what attracted me to having you all on the podcast, because I can tell that you're so genuine. And I think that veterinary professionals are naturally quite gritty, like that first story that you told. But I think that's across the industry, and they give so much. It's wonderful to have a group like you that's also giving back, like pour into their cup. I think that's a beautiful way that you all are just a part of the bigger community. And I'm thankful for the work that you're doing.
Crystal, we're thankful for the work you're doing, honestly, and being able to connect with you. I want to thank Ashley shamelessly on here that she brought us together, because honestly, when she told me about you and said, hey, I think that this is the right place for you, and this is the right person, I didn't even know how much she was right. And what you do for our community, helping with veterinary burnout, it's a hard space we're in, especially right now. I watched this one gal on LinkedIn who's just 9 months out into practicing, new vet, and she just posted the other day about how she's reached her burnout phase. What you're doing in this community is, I think, even more important than what Ranae and I do. And I don't want to say that to you, Ranae, but I do. I think Crystal's got because really, if you can't help us with our mental health, then how are we going to help people with their financial well-being as well, right? So
I feel like it's all really connected. I mean, you bring up a beautiful point, which is, when people ask me about the podcast, like, how do I choose the guest? I say every single guest I have on here is a group or an individual that I believe can truly help the vet med profession. Like, that's it. There's no sponsorship, nothing. Like, I make no money doing this podcast. I just pay money to a production team. So I lose money on the podcast, but it's meant to be educational. It's for me. I want to have a bank of resources that when I meet a new client and they say, finances are stressing me out, it is like, of my pie chart of stress, it's 90% of my pie chart because my student loans are so high. Yep. I'm taking jobs that I don't want to take. I'm signing contracts to non-competes that I don't want to sign because I'm just chasing the dollar, because if I can't get this debt off my plate, what's the point? So sometimes decisions are made that may not be good for the long-term well-being of this person. And money is a huge source of stress and burnout that we hear about all the time. From every level. Like, I don't care if you're a brand new baby doc or a student, piling up that debt, or you've been in practice and you're an owner and you're experiencing that. Like, there's always some kind of financial stress going on, and doctors are so busy, technicians, all of them, they're so busy. Yeah. They just need help. And I think knowing that something like this is out there, that's going to be real, true, genuine help, right? Like, so the Google, you can't always find what you need there. So I think that the relationship aspect of it and knowing what a group or a person's mission is makes a huge difference. And so it's nice to know that you all are part of it's a whole big community that we can work together to pull in the same direction. And that makes me, and I think our team, feel really uplifted too, that we're not just in a tiny silo, like screaming into the void.
I think you're right, because it does sometimes feel like that, and especially when you mentioned earlier about Google and, and things like that, because people, being experienced in the knowledge that we are in, it brings us that extra benefit. People tend to treat veterinary medicine the same way, where they think, I can go on and Google this and I can just figure this out on my own, right? However, at the end of the day, having somebody like you that can say, I've got your mental health covered and I can give you those tools, and somebody like us where we're going to come around with those financial tools, I think it gives them the opportunity to not have to Google so much, and to actually have those references to lean into. So with that, I can't say enough how much we appreciate you so much, Crystal.
Thank you so much. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you both on today. I'll link everything up in the show notes so people can find you easily. Say, take advantage of that free consult. It doesn't hurt to just break the ice and get a plan. People, that was the takeaway for me today, is you deserve a plan. So thank you too for being on.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel stoked after listening to this episode. And as always, I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Is there a topic that you want to know more about? Please let me know. And thank you again for subscribing and sharing your favorite episodes with others. It really means a lot.